What is up everyone? In today's video I'll be showcasing my favorite teams for the Open Great League to get you ready for the next 2 weeks of Go Battle League, cause starting July 6th at 10 PM CEST we'll have 2 weeks of Go Battle League where Open Great League will be available. Now the teams I'll be highlighting today are just my favorites. They're very fun to run, they're still very good, but I wouldn't necessarily call them the best teams or top meta or whatever. If you're into running the best team or top meta, I made a video about that at the beginning of the season, which is still very relevant, so go check that out if you're into that. But if you want to see something a tad, just a smidgen more spicy, I guess, not really spicy, interesting, this is a video for you. Starting with a team that's built around my favorite Pokemon to run in the current Open Great League meta, Kanto, Ninetales, preferably Shadow, because it just packs that tiny bit of extra punch, but regular would work just fine. I think it's extremely solid in the current meta. It beats a lot of the meta like Registeel and Trevenant quite cleanly, and then also has a lot of play versus other meta picks like Walrein, Nidoqueen, Metacham, Sableye. It just destroys all Charmers. Only really has to watch out for waters like Pelipper, Swampert, Sumereal, Tapu Fini, and we're covering that in the back with our own Walrein and then a Pelipper or Trevenant for some hard Swampert answer. In this team, Walrein is your pivot. It's just an extremely strong save switch in the meta, since the only real hard wall to Walrein is Araquanid, and Araquanid is not that common these days, so Walrein pivot, extremely strong, and then have your other anti-water in the back. This team is definitely not perfect. So like Bastiodon could be a real issue for it. But if you can hit it with an Earthquake in the end game, you're kind of fine. So it is manageable, just not great. Lickitung can also be a bit of an issue, though both, actually all three of these Pokemon basically have play, except for Trevenant. Trevenant doesn't have much play versus Lickitung, but the other three are kind of fine-ish, but it will be difficult to play around. Another Pokemon that could be a bit of an issue is Scrafty, if you go for the Trevenant variant of this team. But again, it is playable if you can get shields down and overheat it with Ninetales. I actually haven't spoken about Ninetales moveset. The one I highly recommend is running Shadow with Fire Spin or Ember. I actually prefer Ember these days, but Fire Spin is still very, very good. Weather Ball Fire, of course, and then Overheat. 3 fire moves. Might seem like a bit like crazy, but it is the way. Overheat just hits super, super, super hard and is either a nice surprise when shields are up or just amazing as a closer. So that's why I recommend Overheat. Definitely go give it a go. Very fun squad to run and really good too. Next up is a team I kinda stole from the Liverpool regional winner Lurgan Rocket. He and his Cresselia Diggersby core managed to win the first ever official Play Pokemon Regional Championships, and after that I was inspired to run it for myself in GBL with a lot of success. I already have a video, full video on this team on their channel, so if you want more insights I'll put the link down in the description below. That was before Araquanid though. Araquanid kinda ruined this team a little bit. If you see it, you'll likely lose. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's probably close. Luckily though, I don't think Araquanid is that common. You might see like 1, 2, or 3 a day. So 3 guaranteed losses a day with this team is not that bad, right? If you can win or have a good chance to win the rest. Now, if Araquanid ends up being more common than that, bench this team, alright? It's not gonna be great. But if it's uncommon, I think it'll be fine. Anyway, this squad built around Cresselia, Diggersby core, just a very solid duo. Cresselia, of course, struggles hard versus Ghosts, versus Darks, and versus Steels. And Diggersby does very well against 2 of these categories, Steels and Darks. And Ghosts, I mean. And it does okay versus some of the Darks as well. Mandibuzz isn't great. Umbreon isn't great. But Cresselia also has Moonblast, which gives it a decent matchups versus those Darks as well, actually. And then there's Walrein in the middle. Preferably Shadow. That's what I ran, that's what Lurgan ran. But honestly, regular works just fine as well. Warine is your pivot in this team. It's meant to lure out potential fighting types. And once you've lured it out, Warring can't beat it, but it can bring the fighting types low enough to where I can farm now in Cresselia with some energy is just a monster. And, you know, once the fighting type is gone, Diggersby can often just sweep. It is so good as a closer, especially versus the common Registeel, Sableye cores, which are kind of everywhere. Now, this team doesn't just struggle with Araquanid, it also has some troubles with a lot of Ninetales, but all three of these Pokemon do have play against them, so you should be able to deal with it. Talonflame can also be a bit of an issue, since you should probably run Cresselia with Grass, not Moonblast, which means Talonflame takes no damage from it, basically. And then Diggersby also gets walled. You really only have Warring for the thing, so it is a difficult Pokemon to deal with. But again, probably less common than Araquanid, so should be fine. Anyway, overall, as long as you can avoid Araquanid, this should be a very solid and fun team to run. Next up, a slightly spicier team built around Lurantis. This is a team I ran when Lurantis first came out, so there's also already a full video about this squad on the channel. I'll put the link down in the description below. But anyway, I just love Lurantis. It has such good coverage with Leaf Blade, Super Power, and it gets to this move super fast using Fury Cutter. It does have a lot of weaknesses though, like Nidoqueen, Trevenant, Flyers, Dark Poisons, or other poison types, and those are kind of difficult to cover for. The best cover I found though is Cofagrigus, because it deals with most Flyers just fine. It does fine versus fire types. It beats most of the poison types. It's okay versus Trevenant. It still struggles versus Pokemon like Manabus and Drapion though, which will be difficult for this squad. Luckily though, not super common, so might be fine. And I'm running Skuntank in the middle, which does kind of fine against those as well. This is kind of like an ABB team. If you don't spot a Fire, Flyer, or Steel in the lead, you kind of want to switch into your Skuntank to lure that out, potentially. Usually, what I've noticed, they'll switch in their Skarmory against Skuntank and can Flamethrower that. And then Lurantis is just free to kill everything else once the Flyer is gone. This is definitely not a perfect team, but I found it to be very fun and I've ran into a lot of success, so hopefully it does good in this season too. It wouldn't be a favorite teams video without highlighting Azumarill Double Ghost or the newer variation of Tapu Fini Double Ghost. I have like endless videos on this team, so if you want like full details on how to run it, I'll put some of them in the description down below. All the regular viewers are probably getting bored me explaining this team, so I'll keep it short. It's basically your standard ABB line, Fairy in the lead, which is your anti-dark, 2 ghosts in the back. So if you don't see a dark in the lead, you have to switch into your Sableye, lure out the dark, return it a couple times. That's very important. You kind of need Purified Return Sableye, which can actually flip some dark matchups, but even if you don't flip it, you've lured out the dark type, you'll kill the dark with your Fairy whilst it's still locked in, and then once the dark type is gone, Alola Marowak or Trevenant, but probably Alola Marowak is a little better, especially if you have Shadow. Alola Marowak is just better. Well, can clean up the back line. Very simple to run, very, very fun. Speaking of basic ABB lines, here is another one I showcased pretty recently, Lickitung Double Fighter. Now you can run this with basically any fighters. I ran it with Toxicroak Machamp, but Medicham, Primeape, Surfetch'd worked just fine as well. Even Hitmonchan would work just okay too, but I liked it in this form. But I think Toxicroak and Machamp are very, very strong and fun, which is kind of the purpose of this video slash team too. Toxicroak, kind of an underrated Pokemon in the current meta, I think does very well against everything that's weak to fighting, of course. And then has Sludge as coverage versus Fairies versus Grass. Even Trevenant has to fear Toxicroak. Also Sableye has to fear Toxicroak as well. You do actually do quite decent in that matchup, where Medicham actually really sucks. So that's nice. Araquanid too, actually. That's another big one. That's why I was started running Toxicroak. Toxicroak destroys Araquanid, which is a good property to have as a fighter. Same with Machamp. The Rock Slide coverage is just very, very nice for Araquanid, for Flyers, for some fire types like a Talonflame, which is really good to have. And then Lickitung in the lead is just to cover for ghost types and fairies, charmers mainly, Azumarill, that can really cause some trouble for the fighting types. Overall, very solid squad. Just use whatever fighters you have in the back. Alternatively, if you don't have a Lickitung, you can also use like a Galarian Stunfisk or a Registeel in the lead. That would work okay too. You'd just be a little weak, or quite a bit weaker to Metachamp. Could definitely be a problem, but should still be playable if you run your own Metachamp in the back then. Anyway, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's teams. Let me know what your favorite team is down in the comments below. I'd love to hear about them, and I might even run some of them for my own. Anyway, see you guys in the next video. Good luck with your battles.